What if I told you that one of the most famous, just seemingly innocent poems in Chinese history isn't actually about taking a pleasant autumn stroll to look at maple leaves?
Right.
Like, what if, instead, that poem is actually a highly classified, rigorously tested biological manual?
Oh, yeah. A literal step-by-step schematic for, pausing your own breath.
Exactly. Rewiring your nervous system, reversing your cellular aging, and essentially attempting to achieve physical immortality.
It completely shatters the lens through which we view classic literature, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we are so conditioned to look at these towering works, the poems, the epic novels, as just narrative architecture.
Right, just good stories.
Yeah, we admire the plot, the character development, the aesthetic beauty of the words, but we rarely consider that the authors might be using the cover of fiction to, well, smuggle out illicit esoteric science.
And that is exactly our mission on this deep dive. Today, we are taking the foundational masterpieces of Chinese literature, specifically Dream of the Red Chamber, Journey to the West, and the golden era of Tang Dynasty poetry.
The heavy hitters.
The absolute heavy hitters. And we are ripping up the traditional syllabus. We are not reading these as stories today. We are reading them as encrypted maps of Daoist internal alchemy.
What's fascinating here is that we aren't just talking about abstract philosophy. Daoist inner cultivation Naiden is an incredibly mechanical, almost engineering-like approach to the human body.
Yeah, it's very precise.
Extremely precise. These authors were mapping out the deep energy reservoirs of the body, specifically what are known as the 8 extraordinary meridians. And because revealing these practices openly was often taboo or, frankly, simply too complex for the uninitiated, they hid this profound biological and spiritual instruction manual in plain sight.
Disguised as teenage romance, monkey-led adventures, and, scenic nature poetry.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this because the sheer scale of what we're going to cover today is just massive.
Yeah.
We are going to map out an entire journey for you, the listener.
Right, step by step.
Right. We have to start at the very beginning with a completely counterintuitive approach to the simple, everyday act of reading itself. Then we'll decode the hidden breathing techniques locked inside ancient poetry.
The foundation.
Yep. From there, we are going to walk through the actual structural architecture of the human soul using the red chamber. And finally, we will break down the absolute highest tiers of cosmic power and immortality through the martial alchemy of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King.
But, before we can even touch the advanced mechanics of Monkey Kings and immortality, we really have to address the elephant in the room.
The mindset.
The foundational mindset, yeah.
Right.
You cannot access these deeper layers of human potential using the stressed-out, hyper-anxious, over-caffeinated brain of a modern mortal.
Right, because if you try to do internal alchemy while you're, stressing about a deadline, you're just going to give yourself a headache.
Exactly. Or worse, you could actively damage your internal systems. In Taoist terms, the heart is considered the monarch of the body. It's the emperor. And in our normal, everyday lives, whether that's an ancient scholar memorizing texts or, you, the listener, doom scrolling through emails or analyzing a massive spreadsheet, that mental labor forces the emperor to act like a stressed-out middle manager.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
completely exhausts the monarch. It drains what Taoists call your vital key, your life energy.
Which brings us to this incredibly pragmatic entry point from our sources today, the reading method.
Yes.
I love the origin of this, by the way, because it didn't start with some bearded sage meditating on a misty mountain peak. It started as an ancient Chinese life hack.
It really did.
The practitioner who documented this method was literally just trying to pass their exams. They were trying to get out of the equivalent of an associate's degree and into a graduate program. They just wanted higher grades.
Well, the imperial examination system in ancient China, the Qiju, was notoriously, lethally stressful. Oh, absolutely. We are talking about students being locked in tiny freezing cells for days, forced to regurgitate tens of thousands of characters of classical texts entirely from memory. People literally died of exhaustion during these exams.
That is insane.
The mental drain was catastrophic. So developing a method to read and memorize without draining your vital energy,
Yeah.
It wasn't just a neat trick. It was a survival mechanism.
But here's where I have to push back a little, or at least play devil's advocate, because studying is universally exhausting.
Sure.
Anyone who has ever stared at a screen for 8 hours knows that the brain fog, the eye strain, the physical lethargy that is real, biological fatigue.
Oh, of course.
So how exactly does the act of reading make you physically stronger over time, as this method claims? I mean, it sounds like saying that running a marathon while you sleep will make your muscles grow. It doesn't make logical sense.
It's a really fair pushback because it directly contradicts how we are taught to learn in the modern world. We are taught that learning requires force.
Right, cramming.
Yeah, you grip the book, you furrow your brow, you force the information into your brain. But this method relies on the Daoist concept of wu wei, which translates to non-action or effortless action.
So just slacking off.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's actually a state of profound, frictionless focus. Let's think about it biologically for a second.
Okay.
When you read with a tense, grasping mind, your sympathetic nervous system is highly engaged. You are essentially in a mild state of fight or flight.
Oh, wow.
Your heart rate is slightly elevated, your muscles are tense, your breath is shallow, you are constantly leaking energy. The Wu Wei reading method shifts you into the parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest state.
Exactly. It's a state of internal energy conservation. You aren't forcing the knowledge in. You are allowing your mind to become a perfectly still mirror that simply reflects the text.
Okay, wait. I want to make sure I really understand the how of this. If I'm sitting at my desk right now listening to this, reading a dense report, how do I actually do this Wu Wei reading?
It starts with the eyes and the breath. Instead of aggressively darting your eyes across the page and letting your internal monologue read every single word aloud in your head, which, by the way, taxes the throat and the mind, you soften your gaze.
Soften the gaze, okay.
You take the text in almost visually as blocks of meaning. Simultaneously, you drop your breathing down into your abdomen, far away from your chest. You detach your ego's desperation to understand immediately, and you just let the pattern of the information wash over you.
You know what that sounds like? It's like staring at one of those magic eye posters from the 90s.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah.
Because if you cross your eyes and force it, you just get a headache and you see nothing. You just see static. But if you relax your focus and just let the pattern exist, suddenly a 3D spaceship pops out of the noise.
That is a phenomenal analogy. When you relax that desperate grip, the information enters seamlessly. And because you are breathing deeply and not tensing your muscles, your internal energy, your ki, settles and circulates naturally.
The heart gets to rest.
Yes. The heart, the monarch, gets to sit calmly on its throne. That is why the practitioner noted that over time, this method made them physically stronger. They were no longer bleeding out their life force just to memorize a book.
And what's wild is where this ultimately leads, because the end goal of this method isn't just to be like a really good speed reader.
Not at all.
Once you train your mind to act as this frictionless, non-grasping mirror, our sources say you transcend books entirely. You stop needing paper and ink. You can look at the cracks in ancient oracle bones. You can walk into a temple and literally read the mathematics of its architecture.
And eventually you can look up and literally read the starry sky.
Right.
Because you've shifted from literal intellectual comprehension to energetic resonance. You are no longer reading symbols. You are reading the underlying mechanics of reality. You're reading the flow of yin and yang.
That is just profound.
The ultimate goal here is to shed the heavy, cumbersome reliance on mortal logic, merge with the vastness of the universe, and return to a state of absolute simplicity.
I want to pause here just to connect this to you, the listener. Think about your average Tuesday.
Right.
Think about the sheer volume of emails, Slack messages, news headlines, and social media feeds you read. Every single one of those is a tiny transaction where you are spending your vital energy.
Little paper cuts to your key.
Yes. If you are approaching that daily flood of information with tension, anxiety, and a grasping mind, you are going to end the day feeling like an empty battery.
You are leaking chi everywhere.
Exactly. But if you can adopt even a fraction of this Wu Wei reading mindset, softening your focus, dropping your breath to your stomach, and not letting the stress of the text force your monarch off its throne, true deep focus shouldn't drain you. It should actually rejuvenate you.
And this energy conservation is the absolute mandatory foundation. Because if you are constantly leaking energy through stress, the actual mechanics of internal alchemy simply won't work.
Makes sense.
You can't build pressure in a boiler that has 1,000 holes in it. But assuming we've patched those holes with our new mindset, we can now move to the next stage, the engine of cultivation.
Yes. How do we actually start the engine? We start with the breath and the heart. And the instruction manual for this is hidden inside Tang Dynasty poetry.
Let's start with the linguistics here, because Chinese characters are inherently architectural. The character for poetry is she.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting. If you break apart that character, she, the left side is the radical for speech or words,
Right.
and the right side of the character is composed of two parts inch and earth. So words, inch, earth. In the West, we just think of poetry as words that rhyme, but in the deep mapping of Daoist internal anatomy, what does an inch of earth represent?
In the Taoist energetic map, the inch of earth is a highly specific coordinate. It translates directly to the human heart.
Wow.
Therefore, etymologically speaking, poetry is not just aesthetic rhyming. The literal definition of poetry is words of the heart. It is the direct language of the internal monarch.
It's heart speech. And to show exactly how this heart speech works as a covert training manual, we have to look at one of the most famous poems in the Chinese canon.
By Du Mu.
Yes, by the 9th century poet Du Mu, and it's called Mountain Journey.
If you take a standard literature class, this poem is presented as a beautiful, slightly melancholy snapshot of autumn.
Right. Let me read the rough translation of the surface level for everyone. It goes, "Far up the cold mountain, a stone path slopes. Where white clouds arise, there are human homes. I stop the carriage, for I love the maple woods at evening. The frost-covered leaves are redder than February flowers."
It's gorgeous. You can picture the watercolor painting perfectly.
But if we apply our mission for today, if we connect this to the bigger picture of internal alchemy, the watercolor painting vanishes and a biological blueprint emerges.
Let's decode it line by line. The first line establishes the environment. Far up the cold mountain, a stone path slopes. Now, the cold mountain isn't a geographical location.
What is it then?
It represents the high altitude, the chilled isolation, and the extreme difficulty of spiritual cultivation.
Ah, so it's not a flat, easy walk in the park. It's an uphill battle against your own biology.
Precisely. But the true, highly guarded secret technique is completely hidden in the third line. I stop the carriage, for I love the maple woods at evening. The key phrase here is stop the carriage.
Okay, so the surface reading is I'm in my horse-drawn Uber. I see some pretty red leaves. I tell the driver to pull over so I can look at them. But how does a Taoist master read that?
A Taoist master asks a very practical question. If you are far up a freezing, steep, jagged stone path on a remote mountain, how on earth did you get a heavy wooden carriage up there?
Oh, you couldn't.
You didn't. There's no physical carriage. The carriage is a metaphor for the autonomic nervous system, specifically the constant rolling cycle of human respiration. Stopping the carriage is code for a highly advanced physiological state called zixi.
Ziji, the suspension or stopping of the breath. Now, we really need to clarify this because I don't want listeners just holding their breath until they pass out while driving to work.
Please don't do that.
This isn't like jumping into a swimming pool and pinching your nose.
Not at all. Holding your breath by force is an act of tension. It creates a buildup of carbon dioxide, panic in the brain, and a desperate need to gasp.
Which is the opposite of wu wei.
Exactly. Ziji is the exact opposite. It is a state achieved in deep, profound meditation where the metabolic rate drops so significantly and the internal qi is circulating so efficiently that the gross physical pumping of the lungs naturally and spontaneously ceases.
The need for external oxygen just drops away.
Yes, the physical mechanism of breathing halts. Yet the person is not suffocating. They're actually experiencing an incredibly high refined quality of internal life energy. The body transitions from external lung respiration to internal cellular or energetic respiration.
It makes me think of putting a high-performance computer into a deep sleep mode.
Tell me more.
Well, when you're running a heavy video game, the cooling fans are screaming, pulling in all this external air to keep the system from melting down. That's our normal heavy breathing. We're constantly pulling in air to fuel our chaotic, stressed-out minds.
Right.
But when you put the computer into deep sleep mode, the fans completely stop spinning. It goes dead quiet. To an outside observer, the machine looks like it's shut off. But inside, the core processor is still humming perfectly, silently solving the deepest mysteries of the universe, using only a fraction of a watt of power.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it.
Yeah.
The loud external mechanics shut down to allow the silent internal alchemy to actually heat up.
Wow.
When you stop the carriage, when you achieve zixi, you seal the energy inside. You stop leaking your heat to the outside world. And that internal heat leads directly to the impossible physics of the poem's final line. The frost-covered leaves are redder than February flowers.
Wait, I love this part. So the poet is at the top of the mountain. It's late autumn, verging on winter. There's frost everywhere. He looks at these dying autumn leaves and says they look more vibrant and red than the fresh blooming flowers of spring.
On the surface, it's just poetic appreciation. In alchemy, it is the ultimate goal. the reversal of time.
Reversing time.
Think about the normal flow of biology. We are born in the spring of our youth, full of vibrant red energy. Over time, we expend that energy, we age into the autumn of our lives, we gather the white frost of old age on our heads, and eventually we meet the winter of death.
It's a one-way street.
But the Taoist practitioner refuses the one-way street. By stopping the breath and gathering their internal energy, they reverse the flow. They look backward down the path. They are physically in the autumn or winter of their chronological age. They have the frost. But internally, because they haven't leaped their qi, their life force is redder, hotter, and more vibrant than a literal spring flower.
It's literal time travel within the human body. You pause the breath, you stop the biological wear and tear, and you force the clock hands to spin backward.
It is the essence of the alchemical phrase, to go along with nature produces mortals, to go against nature produces immortals. Nature wants you to breathe, age, and die. Alchemy is the science of reversing that flow.
Okay, so let's summarize our progress on this map so far. We've used the Wu-Wei reading method to calm the mind and stop the immediate leaks of stress. We've used the secret codes in Tang poetry to stop the carriage, pause the breath, and gather this massive reservoir of hot, useful energy.
We have the fuel.
Yes, but energy needs a container. It needs a structure to flow through, or else it just dissipates, or worse, damages the body. And that is where our journey shifts from poetry to architecture. We need to map the actual structural blueprint of the human soul.
This is where the sheer scale of Chinese literature becomes breathtaking.
Yeah.
To understand how energy flows through the body, ancient writers didn't use anatomical drawings of veins and arteries. They used massive architectural structures.
Like buildings.
Specifically, a concept known as the Mingtang, or the Bright Hall, paired with the Lingtai, the spirit platform.
And this isn't just a niche idea from one book. This architectural blueprint has a continuous, unbroken lineage in Chinese culture stretching back over 5,000 years.
It does, and the geometry is incredibly specific and non-negotiable. A Mingtang must be built round on the top and square on the bottom.
Round on top, square on the bottom, why?
Because it represents the fundamental cosmology of ancient China. Heaven is round and the earth is square. The round dome is the cosmos, the infinite, the ungraspable Tao. The square base is the physical material earth.
Right.
But here is the critical pivot. This geometry isn't just for building temples, it is a fractal. It applies perfectly to the human body. The human head is the round dome of heaven. The human heart and the physical torso is the square earth.
So a Taoist temple isn't just a place you go to pray. The building itself is a giant walk-in diagram of your own body.
Precisely. And this geometric mapping applies to macro-governance, how an emperor rules the state, and micro-governance, how you rule your own internal energy. Which brings us finally to the most complex and famous architectural metaphor in all of literature, Dream of the Red Chamber.
Dream of the Red Chamber, written by Cao Sukin in the 18th century.
Right.
For anyone who hasn't read it, it is a massive, sprawling epic. It's often described as the Chinese Romeo and Juliet mixed with Downton Abbey.
It's huge.
Hundreds of characters, incredible details about aristocratic life, poetry, food, and politics, all centered around a wealthy family living in a breathtaking estate called the Grand View Garden.
But if we apply the lens of internal alchemy, the Red Chamber is not just a building where wealthy teenagers write poems. In the specific guarded language of Daoist Naiden, the Red Chamber represents what is known as the Heavy Chamber, or Changlu.
Okay, what is the Heavy Chamber?
Anatomically, the Heavy Chamber refers to the throat chakra, the 12 rings of the trachea. It is the physical pathway of breath and sustenance. But more broadly, the Red Chamber represents the heavy, dense, physical, flesh and blood shell of the entire human body.
Oh, wow.
It is the red, bloody meat suit that temporarily houses our infinite consciousness.
So when the title says Dream of the Red Chamber, it's literally translating to the dream of the physical body. And the text constantly talks about the moment when the Red Chamber dream breaks.
Right.
It's not talking about waking up from a nap, it's talking about a violent spiritual rupture.
Yes. To understand breaking the dream, we have to look back to the ancient rites of Zhu, a text from over 2,000 years ago. In that text, dreams are not just random neurological misfirings while you sleep. Dreams are profound, structured methods of communicating with heaven.
Okay.
When the Red Chamber dream breaks, it means the practitioner has successfully shattered the illusion of their own physical flesh. They have realized that the square earth of their body is just a temporary projection.
But what physically happens inside the body when that illusion shatters? I mean, you don't just instantly evaporate.
No, you don't evaporate, but the internal wiring completely changes. When the illusion of the flesh is broken, it acts as the exact energetic trigger to finally open the body's movies. 8 extraordinary meridians, the Qijing Bamai.
So what does this all mean? We need to explain these meridians because anyone who has had acupuncture has probably heard of meridians. But the 8 extraordinary ones are different, right?
Very different. In traditional Chinese medicine, you have the 12 standard meridians. Think of these as the everyday rivers and streams of the body. They flow to your liver, your stomach, your lungs. They handle the daily business of keeping you alive.
Just the standard plumbing.
Right. But the 8 extraordinary meridians are not rivers. They are the deep, hidden oceans and reservoirs. They don't connect directly to the organs. They store the deepest, most primal, ancestral qi. For normal people, these meridians are largely dormant or just trickling.
They are locked.
They are locked by the density of the physical body. Only when you break the dream of the red chamber do these massive reservoirs flood open, upgrading the human operating system to the level of an immortal.
And the author, Cao Zutin, didn't just hint at this. He literally built a biological blueprint of these meridians into the setting of the book.
He did.
The famous Grandview Garden, this massive, intricate park where the main characters live out their tragic romance, is actually a mathematical map of the human energy system.
It is astounding. The layout of the garden, combined with the exact 120-chapter structure of the novel, simulates a Luoshu square.
Okay, we need to break down the Luoshu square because this is wild. It's a magic square from ancient Chinese numerology. Legend says it was discovered on the back of a magical turtle emerging from the Luo River.
That's the myth, yes.
It's a 3x3 grid of numbers from 1 to 9. And the magic part is that no matter which way you add the numbers horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, they always equal exactly 15.
And that number, 15, is deeply tied to the cycles of the moon, the solar terms, and the balance of yin and yang. But more importantly, the center number of the Luoshu square is always 5.
5.
Yes. In the 5 elements theory, 5 represents Earth, the center, the spleen, the core anchor of the human body.
So how does a magic square map onto a garden full of love-struck teenagers?
Because the characters in the novel don't just wander randomly, their movements, the specific pavilions they live in, and the specific chapters in which major events happen physically map onto the numeric coordinates of the Luoshu square.
You're kidding.
Not at all. When characters move from the bamboo lodge to the autumn courtyard, they are tracing the exact pathways that Qi must take to circulate through the 8 extraordinary meridians. The author hid a dynamic, fluid simulation of human bioenergy inside a soap opera.
It is the ultimate Trojan horse. He hid the secrets of immortality inside a book that the emperor censors would just dismiss as a tragic love story. But this raises a massive question for me. If this novel is a literal step-by-step manual for unlocking our deep meridians, why does the source text give us such a severe warning? There is a line that says the true teaching of the red chamber is priceless, but then it explicitly warns the reader, do not take it if you value gold. If this is supposed to help us transcend, why is the author gatekeeping it so intensely?
That isn't gatekeeping. It's a statement of physical law. To understand why, we have to understand what gold represents. In this context, gold is not just literal money. Gold is the ultimate metaphor for the density of the square Earth.
Okay.
It represents worldly desires, greed, ego, status, romantic obsession, and all of our heavy earthly attachments.
The stuff that literally weighs us down.
Exactly. In Daoist alchemy, true wealth is entirely internal. It is your essence, your qi, and your spirit, often called the 3 treasures, or jing, qi, shen. The warning, do not take it if you value gold, is a physiological warning. If a reader cannot let go of their worldly attachments, if they are obsessed with their career status, their bank account, their ego, they're too energetically dense.
Their internal architecture is clogged.
Completely clogged. The 8 extraordinary meridians cannot flow through a body that is weighed down by the heavy gravity of greed. You cannot hold onto the gold of the material world and expect to float into the round dome of heaven. It's impossible.
So you have to trade it.
You have to trade your gold to realize the dream of the red chamber. You have to willingly empty your house before you can see the blueprint underneath.
You know, it's like trying to download a massive 100-gigabyte software update for your brain, but your hard drive is completely full of trash files and useless apps. You have to delete the gold, the ego, to make room for the update.
A very modern but highly accurate translation of the concept.
Okay, the dream of the red chamber gives us the blueprint. It teaches us the geometry of the soul, the layout of the meridians, and the profound realization that the physical body is a dense illusion to be shattered by letting go of attachments. It is beautiful, and it is largely passive. It's about subtraction. But then we pivot. We turn to our other massive source text, the epic to end all epics, Journey to the West.
Oh, yes.
And if the red chamber gives us the map, Journey to the West gives us the explosive, violent, dynamic energy mechanics to actually forge immortality by force.
It is a complete tonal shift. We move from passive realization in a garden to active, relentless combat across a continent. Journey to the West is famous worldwide as the story of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, protecting the Tang monk on a journey to India to retrieve Buddhist scriptures.
A fun road trip.
But again, under the lens of internal alchemy, this is not an adventure story. It is a classic of tribulations. It's from chapter 1 to chapter 100, a brutal, unending battle over human energy.
A battle over energy. Let's look at the actual plot mechanics. The Tang monk is constantly being kidnapped by demons who want to eat him or marry him. Why? Our deep dive sources categorize these demons into two highly specific alchemical camps, the 9 yang and the 9 yin.
This is where the biology becomes overt. The Tang monk represents pure, uncorrupted, primal yang energy. He is the ultimate, pristine source of life force.
Okay.
The 9 yang represent the male demons they encounter. What is their goal? They want to literally eat the Tang monk's flesh. By consuming his pure yang, they bypass centuries of meditation and instantly achieve physical immortality.
They are trying to hack the system by stealing his battery.
Right.
And the female demons.
The 9 yen represent the female demons, like the spider demons or the scorpion demon. They don't want to eat him. Their goal is to marry him, seduce him, and extract his pure yang energy through sexual alchemy.
Wow.
If they can extract his primal yang to balance their deep yin, they ascend to become Tai golden immortals.
So every single monster they fight, every river demon, every mountain spirit, is essentially a metaphor for an internal psychological flaw or an external distraction that is actively trying to steal your life essence.
Absolutely.
The entire 14-year journey isn't a road trip. It's an 81-step active defense of your internal energy against constant draining attacks.
Exactly. Every time the monkey fights a demon, he is fighting off a mechanism that causes the body to leak qi. And to survive this relentless onslaught, the novel establishes an incredible, highly structured hierarchy of cosmic power. It lays out different tiers of cultivation techniques used by different beings.
Yes, I love this part because it sounds like the ultimate skill trees in a video game. The sources list these out. At the very top, the absolute highest cosmic level, you have the creation cycle art.
Right.
This is the power used by Pangu, the mythological giant who literally split heaven and earth apart with an axe to create the universe. We're talking big bang level energy.
Right. That is the macrocosmic scale. Then stepping down to the human spiritual scale, you have the Prajna Paramita, which is the path of the Tang monk. It's a path of pure spiritual endurance and sutra chanting. And the text notes a highly specific key to this path, the number 5048.
5048, that sounds so weirdly specific. Why that number?
In the literal story, 5048 is the exact number of scrolls of scriptures the monk brings back. But numerically, 5048 represents the days in 14 years, the duration of the journey.
Oh, I see.
In internal alchemy, it represents the specific rhythmic cycles, the required accumulations of breath and energy circulation through the microcosmic orbit needed to complete a full physical transformation. It's a measure of required repetitive effort.
Okay, so that's the monk's path. Then you get down into the actual alchemical elixirs. You have the 9-turn grand elixir used by Zubaji, the pig demon, and Shawujing.
Yeah.
And slightly above that, the 9-turn golden elixir used by higher-level beings like the Red Boy and the goddess Guanyin.
Yes.
We need to explain this. What does 9-turn mean, and what is this elixir? Is it a potion you drink?
No, you don't drink it. It's internal. In external alchemy, Wyden, ancient Daoists, literally tried to smelt gold and mercury in a physical cauldron, which, well, usually just poisoned them.
Not great.
No. Internal alchemy, not. Internalize the metaphor. Your body is the cauldron. Your lower abdomen, the dantian, is the furnace. Your breath is the bellows that fans the fire. Your internal energies are the ingredients. A turn or a cycle means circulating that energy up the spine and down the front of the body, refining it through heat and pressure.
Like distilling alcohol. The more times you boil it and condense it, the purer and stronger the alcohol gets.
Precisely. 9 is the highest single-digit yang number in Chinese numerology, representing maximum completion. So a 9-turn golden elixir means you have cycled and refined your internal energy to its absolute most potent, indestructible state. Your physical flesh is entirely replaced by pure, condensed energy.
Which brings us to the main event. The most important technique of all, the one used by Sun Wukong himself. He learns the secret to immortality from his mysterious master Sukuti at the very beginning of the novel.
Yes, he does.
And it is arguably the most aggressive cultivation technique ever written down.
The technique is called Xian Miao Tong, which translates roughly to the manifest and secret complete perfection mantra. The author, Wu Chen, actually writes out the rhyming couplets of this mantra in the book.
Just hidden in the text.
Exactly. And if you know how to read it, it is a pure, unadulterated, highly technical manual for explosive Daoist alchemy.
The very first rule of the mantra, the absolute core of Wukong's power, is strictly guard and do not leak. We are back to the leaks. Do not leak what? The essence, qi, and spirit. Jing, qi, shen.
This connects everything we've talked about. It brings us back to the Wu Wei reading method, and it brings us back to the Red Chamber's warning about gold. The fundamental, non-negotiable rule of the Monkey King's immortality is absolute, ironclad internal containment.
You have to plug the holes.
You must plug every single leak in your hull. Every time you give in to anger, lust, greed, or even just extreme mental stress at your job, you are leaking your vital energy to the demons.
Wukong is basically building an impenetrable vault for his life force, but containment isn't enough. You can't just lock the door and sit there. You have to do something with the energy.
Right.
The text breaks down the phrase yin mi yuan tong. Xian means manifest or explicit. Mi means secret or hidden. What does that mean physically?
In the deep physiological mapping of Taoist practice, Xin and Mi are not abstract concepts. They represent two highly specific, literal orifices within the human body's energy system.
Okay.
Xian, the manifest, typically refers to the upper orifices, the mouth and nose, where the breath explicitly enters, or the upper palate, where the tongue rests. Mi, the secret, refers to the hidden lower orifices, specifically the Huan point at the perineum, the very base of the torso.
So you have a top point and a bottom point.
Yes. And the goal is Yuntong circular completion. When these two specific orifices are perfectly aligned, when the tongue touches the roof of the mouth to connect the front and back channels, and the lower gate is sealed, a literal internal bridge appears within the body's energy system.
The gap is closed.
The circuit is completed.
The text even points out a real-world physical representation of this. In Huyuzer Westlake, there is a physical stone bridge called the Yuantong Bridge. It was specifically built with 6 smaller bridges or arches to visually represent solving the 6 great mysteries of Taoist cultivation. So again, architecture mirroring biology.
The bridge is the literal circuit board connection that allows the energy to flow up the spine and down the front without interruption. And once that bridge is firmly established and the energy is looping, Wukong executes the climax of his technique. The text describes this as gathering the 5 elements and using them in reverse.
This is the craziest part of the whole manual. What does it mean to use the 5 elements in reverse?
In traditional Chinese medicine, your organs correspond to the 5 elements. The heart is fire, the kidneys are water, the liver is wood, the lungs are metal, the spleen is earth.
Got it.
In a normal, mortal human, these elements follow the path of decay. Fire naturally flares upward into the head, causing chaotic thoughts and stress. Water naturally flows downward and out of the body, draining your vital essence.
Fire goes up, water goes down, they separate, and when they separate completely, you die.
Exactly. To use them in reverse means forcing the physics of the body to work backward. Through intense meditation, breathing our Ziji in the internal bridge we just built, the Taoist actively pushes the fire of the heart down into the belly. At the same time, they draw the water of the kidneys up.
So the fire is now underneath the water.
Yes. And what happens when you put fire underwater?
It boils. It creates steam.
That steam is pure, refined qi. The fire boils the water, turning heavy physical essence into light, rising spiritual energy that shoots up the spine to nourish the brain. The text poetically calls this impossible biological reaction planting a golden lotus in the middle of a roaring fire.
Okay, I have to use an analogy here because this is intensely mechanical. Wukong's internal bridge and this reversing of the elements, it sounds exactly like building a nuclear particle accelerator inside your own body.
Oh, walk me through that. I like that.
Okay, first you have to build the vacuum tube and seal all the leaks. If there's a leak in a particle accelerator, the whole thing fails catastrophically. That is Wukong guarding his essence, qi, and spirit.
Makes
Next, you have to align the superconducting magnets perfectly to create the continuous loop. That is connecting the manifest and secret orifices, the top and bottom, to build the internal bridge.
And the particles themselves.
The particles are the 5 elements of your body. Normally, they just sit there and decay over time, but Wukong takes them, forces them into the loop, and instead of letting them decay, he spins them in reverse at light speed.
Wow.
He pushes the fire down and the water up, smashing them together in the lower abdomen to generate the explosive, reality-bending power of an immortal. It is active, it is aggressive, and it requires an immense, violent force of will.
That is a phenomenal synthesis. It perfectly captures the martial, engineering-heavy reality of Wukong's path, which leads us perfectly into the grand comparison. We have just spent an hour exploring 2 distinctly different literary masterpieces, offering 2 completely different paths to the exact same peak of transcendence.
The ultimate showdown. Wukong versus the Red Chamber, the Monkey King versus Jia Baoyu, the tragic teenage aristocrat. 2 roads leading to immortality.
Let's look at the core differences in their cultivation methods. The Red Chamber path, as we discussed, is essentially passive. It is a path of awakening and mindfulness. It is about recognizing that the physical body, the red chamber itself, is fundamentally an illusion.
Right, it's a path of subtraction. You don't have to build a particle accelerator. You just have to let go of the worldly gold. You allow the dream of the flesh to break, and by removing the blockages of your own ego and attachments, the 8 extraordinary meridians just naturally open up on their own. It is profound surrender.
Conversely, the Wukong path is wildly, violently active. It is highly alchemical.
It's all about addition and defense. Wukong's path is aggressively hoarding your energy. It's about constantly surviving 81 tribulations, physically beating away the yin and yang demons that want to consume you, intentionally building physical energy bridges inside your body, and actively forcing the 5 elements to spin in reverse is literal martial arts for the soul.
This raises an important question, perhaps the most important question for anyone listening today, who wants to apply these ancient texts to their modern life. Which path is for you?
Because no matter which path you take, they both require that exact same foundational mindset we started with, right?
Absolutely. Whether you choose the path of profound surrender or the path of active, fiery alchemy, you cannot begin without the reading method. You need that state of wu-wei, non-action, where your heart is calm and your mind is not leaking energy through the stress of daily life.
It's a foundation.
And you need the heart focus, taught in the Tang poetry, the ability to stop the carriage, pause the frantic breathing, and quiet the internal noise so the energy can pool.
But once you have that quiet foundation, you face a choice. Look at your life right now. Do you need to dispel the illusions? Are you weighed down by the gold of corporate status, social media validation, and heavy attachments?
A lot of people are.
Right. Do you need to break the dream of the red chamber, empty your house, and just let your energy flow naturally? Or do you need the monkey? Are you constantly under attack from energy vampires at work? Do you need to actively forge your internal energy, fiercely guard your boundaries against external drains, and build an internal bridge of power to survive your own 81 tribulations?
Both paths are valid. Both lead to the same Luoshu square of cosmic alignment where the body harmonizes with the universe. The true genius of these authors, Cao Shuqin, Wu Cheng, the Tang poets, was encoding both methods into the cultural DNA of their literature, ensuring that these biological instruction manuals would survive wars, dynasties, and censors for centuries.
It really changes how you look at a bookshelf.
Okay.
To wrap up this deep dive, we have traveled an incredible distance today. We started with a simple, practical reading technique designed to lower exam stress and realized it was actually a method of conserving our literal life force.
We did.
We stood on a steep, freezing mountain path with a Tang poet, learning to pause our breath to reverse our biological clock.
We decoded the structural, geometric architecture of the Grandview Garden, realizing it was a one-to-one map of the 8 extraordinary meridians waiting for us to shed our worldly attachments.
And finally, we built Wukong's internal particle accelerator, fiercely guarding our essence and reversing the flow of fire and water to forge an immortal bridge. We've seen, undeniably, how classical Chinese literature is essentially an encrypted biological and spiritual map.
The knowledge has always been there, just waiting for the reader to stop looking at the plot and start looking at the plumbing.
Which leaves me with a final, provocative thought for you to mull over as we end today. Our sources noted that the ultimate reading method eventually transcends books entirely. It allows you to read temple architecture, oracle bones, and even the starry sky.
Yes.
So, as you go about your day today, look around you. What are you currently reading literally in your life? Maybe it's a passive-aggressive email from your boss. Maybe it's a difficult conversation with a partner. Maybe it's a terrifying news headline.
We read those all day long.
We do. But how much energy would you save, and how much internal power could you cultivate if you stopped gripping the literal stressful words and started reading the hidden meridians, the underlying energy flows, and the true nature behind them? What if you stopped reacting to the story and started managing the energy?
A profound shift from the literal narrative to the essential truth.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep reading between the lines.